Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the KODAL Minerals PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, all questions will be reviewed, with responses published on the Investor Meet Company platform where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll, and if you could give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company would be most grateful. And I'd now like to hand you over to CEO Bernard Aylward. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jake. Thanks very much for having us today, and I'd like to welcome all investors and shareholders and interested parties into this update for KODAL Minerals. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard a lot of this before. We're looking forward to providing an update that hopefully clarifies a few questions that you've all been asking, but also gives you an indication of where we intend to go over the next few months and hopefully the longer term future, which should be great for all of us. So I'd like to start our presentation today, and essentially this is clearly what we're about. KODAL, we're focused on our lithium project. We're providing investors with exposure to what we consider to be a really great project in Mali. Looking forward to being able to push this to development to take advantage of this high price and extremely strong interest we're seeing in our project. And in addition, we've got a suite of highly prospective gold assets that we think will continue to add value. So as I said, our focus, we're all about advancing our Burgundy lithium project. We're looking to finalise financing, finalising the investment decisions. And right now we're all aware of how strong the lithium market is, the strong demand for our product, and we're looking to secure maximum financial return for our shareholders. Just to reiterate the goals that we've achieved, it's a very good project, as we've stated numerous times. We presented an update study on our feasibility this year, again confirming an extremely robust project. And while we still maintain a degree of conservatism around that update, it still generates great value. We're looking at a market that's increasingly has an increasing demand for spodumene product. The supply is low, the demand is high. We're looking to benefit from that strong interest. We have had a lot of interest in our project, and I continue to reiterate to existing investors and to existing shareholders and potential investors that we have a lot of interest in our project. It's a very good project. We're in discussions, but nothing is yet finalised. But the strong interest tells me that we're really in a position to move quickly through to development when we finalise our preferred option. Clearly, we've had the project since 2016. First drill holes were completed in December 2016. We've been moving very quickly. A couple of hiccups along the way. Obviously, we're all aware of the situation with COVID and the effect that had worldwide. Mali, its political situation has hindered us slightly, but not to a great deal. We have achieved a resource within 18 months of acquiring the project. We achieved environmental approval within 2 years of acquiring the project, completed a feasibility study, had our mining license granted. We've updated that feasibility study to be more relevant to the current cost environment, and now we're in these discussions that we think will advance us through to a production asset. With me today, I have our newly appointed Executive Director, Steve Zaninovich. And Steve, as you will all know, has been working with the company for several years now. And we think we have a fantastic working relationship. We have a very good team in Mali, a very good board and executive team, a team that's put together to drive this project. And what I'd like to do now is ask Steve just to discuss the next few slides that relate to our feasibility study, give you a bit of an indication of the engineering involved in moving through to development and our plans to achieve this. So Steve, thanks.
Thanks for that introduction, Bernard. It's good to be part of the KODAL team full-time now and looking forward to progressing the project. We did release recently an update to our study. It's not only on the back of increased lithium prices worldwide, but also we've concluded some additional engineering to give us some more confidence in some of the process metrics, as well as the costings of the project. An NPV of 760 million US pre-tax is a great position for us. In life of mine, revenues are over $1 billion, and that's based on an average price of $10.60 per tonne. We'll see later in the presentation that there is some variation on pricing at the moment. It's way higher than that, but as Bernard maintained, we're looking to generate some sustainability in our project, and forecasting of prices does vary quite a bit from analyst to analyst. Still retaining low cash costs for the project, so we can see that our project will be able to survive the values of pricing coming from concentrate as we move forward. Up to about 238,000 tonnes of concentrate per annum, which is it's a pretty good clip for a project of this size. Short payback, including contingency actually, that capital requirements, there's a bit of a typo there, sorry, my fault, of 154 million and a really healthy IRR. We've recently done some more reviews of our flotation design, and we've engaged with some consultants who are estimating that we can save 20% on that project cost. So we're very confident in our overall capital for the project. This is a snapshot of our mineral resource estimate. The main thing that we want to highlight here is that, as Bernard said, we were quick to produce our maiden resource and expanded that to a total of 21 million tonnes at about 1.11%. There's more to find out there at Burgundy. There's a number of multiple pegmatite veins requiring further drilling in the prospects that are within our mining license area, which has been granted by the Mali government, and we continue to get great support from Mali. So in the coming months, we'll be planning some additional drilling, not only to give us the full confidence in our project resource, but also to expand that resource. This is a snapshot of the Burgundy area. You can see the deposits of Sogolabelle to the west, adjacent to Bumu, and Anguilana, which is just south of the river there. Our engineering focus recent times, as I said, we've put some more additional detail into our designs. We're actually progressing with more of the detail work that is required pre-development. There's some additional metallurgical test work to do, although we remain confident that we can improve our flotation recoveries. We've continued to engage with our socially with the communities and where we work. I've just come back from site last week, and in speaking with the governor of Burgundy, they're really excited for us to move forward with the project. And I'm going to go back to Bernard to discuss the key lithium demand drivers, which we're aware of. Bernard.
Thanks, Steve. Obviously, key to our development is that fundamental aspect of the engineering that Steve has briefly highlighted there, but I can tell you there's a lot of work gone into getting us to where we are now, and the fact that we're able to demonstrate such a quality project and work. I think Steve's done a great job with his team, and I think we're going to see a lot of benefit from having this on board with us. But also, we're all aware of what's going on with the lithium market, and I thought today I'd just supply a few comments around why we see such a demand and why we think that going forward we're still going to be in a very positive environment despite headwinds that we're seeing in the market in other areas. The push to move towards a green energy future, towards EVs and a greener environment is not going to change, and we're seeing lots of subsidies from governments, lots of incentives put in place for this development, and realistically a lot of push from population to make it happen. So we believe, and KODAL got involved in this area since 2016, that this is going to be a long-term future, that lithium will be part of the clear economy for a long time to come, and an asset such as ours, where we have a quality project with easy to mine, high-grade pegmatite veins, a processing system that's well understood, that delivers a high-grade pure spodumene concentrate to refiners, will always be in demand. And if we look at this graph that we're showing now, or this series of graphs that we're showing now, it's essentially showing the expected demand increase for lithium batteries, and the growth is expected to continue almost to double through to 2030. And the main drivers for that are batteries for electric vehicles. There's also other uses, including electric storage systems, including mobile machinery such as forklifts and high lift jacks and so on, that have external batteries. But the main driver is going to be the electric vehicles. And you can see that expected growth far exceeds the current supply, and probably exceeds the current expected supply, even if all projects were able to come into the market on time, under budget, and with the forecasts that they're making. As we look towards the next slide, again, the key driver for why those electric EVs are such a driver for that increase in demand is clear, that a lot of countries such as China, throughout Europe, throughout the US and Canada, are all increasing their stimulus and all increasing their targets of electric vehicles on the road. I mean, we understand that throughout Europe there's a push to actually prevent petrol-driven and fossil fuel-driven cars entering major cities. It's a disincentive for those cars to be continuing on the road. And on the flip side, countries such as Norway and the Netherlands are having very attractive incentives for people to take up the vehicles. So again, you can see that this demand expectation, this increase in take-up of electric vehicles, continues not quite exponentially, but significant growth right through to 2030. We expect to be able to bring our project into production in 2023, and we expect to be able to be part of this increasing demand throughout that whole period, and looking forward to achieving a good price for our product. Again, a lot of what we're talking about today is a crystal ball gazing analyst predictions of prices. But you can see, as we look here, this graph showing price and supply versus demand over a long period from January 2017 through to now. You can see that we've had some ups and downs, but the last year has been an exceptional price increase. And overall, that price increase is driven by an increase in demand, and a long-term expected increase in demand. As we say at the headline there, some analysts are projecting perpetual deficit, and that's probably driven by the fact that the increasing demand will increase supply, but the expected demand will continue to outpace that increase in supply. So the demand will always mean that we should achieve a good price for our product. Lithium is not, contrary to a lot of commentary I hear, lithium is not such an easy product to bring to market. Yes, there's possibly substantial supply that can be added, but again, as I say, the demand will far outweigh that supply increase. Finally, I'd just like to mention briefly, you're all aware that I believe our gold exploration projects are a fantastic opportunity for us. We've got a great project at Fatu in Mali. We're continuing to do the geological work to follow up the drilling we completed earlier this year. Looking very positive. We will continue to work there. Our projects in Cote d'Ivoire, we have a great project at Nielé with already good economic grade intersections through our drilling that we look to follow up and aiming at a maiden resource there. A Dabakala project with a fantastic gold in surface anomaly that we'd love to get into drill. But clearly, our number one focus is the Burgundy Lithium project, and that's where all our attention is in this immediate future. And so the key activities for us are obviously the engineering work that Steve's in charge of, environmental work, again, that Steve manages, the corporate side of things where we're all working on financing, on our development team to be employed, and on the finalisation of the mining company that we will operate in conjunction with the Mali government. We've got a series of resource and infill and extension drilling to do at our project for our known veins, as well as exploration of our identified key prospects. And finally, the gold exploration work that we'll be doing in the background. Again, we hope that you've all been kept up to date with our recent news, including that feasibility update that Steve mentioned. And we do highlight that while it's still conservative, has demonstrated an extremely robust project, a very attractive NPV. Capital is quite low for a project that we're looking to develop, and return is excellent. We have seen the news about the change of structure of our major shareholder, Rishin International, again reinforcing that their interest in lithium and their new shareholders' interest in lithium is very strong. They've always been a very supportive shareholder of us. We've obviously maintained our good relationship with Rishin, and we continue to work with them. Clearly, we're all, as a board, we're all very happy to welcome Steve on board as an executive director. We believe it clearly marks his strong interest in the project. He's worked with us for several years. We're very keen to move it through to development. Following on from this series of works, obviously the engineering will lead to further updates of our project development. We will be undertaking the drilling as soon as we can get onto the project area, and we expect to continue returning high-grade lithium intersections, particularly around our known areas, but we hope that some of the new exploration prospects continue to deliver great results for us. And then we look to provide news on our gold exploration project. So I think in summary, the key point that we'd like to bring across through this presentation is that our Burgundy Lithium project is a well-advanced, fully permitted project. We have a lot of interest from people looking to support us to bring this project into development. It's clearly a project that the next stage is to finance and move quickly to development, and that is our focus, and that's what we would like to be able to update you on in the near future. So I think that would leave it for our presentation today. Of course, we're open to all questions, and we look forward to providing more information in the near future.
Bernard, Steve, that's great, and thank you very much indeed for your presentation this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab that's situated on the top right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the company takes a few moments to review those questions that were submitted already, I would like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Bernard, Steve, as you can see, we have received a number of questions throughout today's presentation, and thank you to all the investors for submitting their questions. I will shortly invite you to open up that Q&A tab and respond to those where it's appropriate to do so. But perhaps for doing so, we did receive a number of pre-submitted questions from investors ahead of today's event, and if I may, I wanted to start off the Q&A session with these. The first one that we have here reads as follows: growing political tension has risen again. How will this affect KODAL?
Well, I'll answer that, Jake, and just I'd like to say that we've been operating, well, Steve's been operating in West Africa, I think, since about 1998, and I've been operating in West Africa since around 2007. The political environment in West Africa can, and we all have seen, can be quite complex. What we saw in Mali last year was a coup which removed a democratically elected government. The coup was undertaken with a lot of popular support, and it was recognised that the government had become a bit stuck. They were unable to produce a proper cabinet. They were unable to force their legislation through. The situation is now that the military have installed an interim government. That government has stated that they'll be undertaking elections in 2 years' time, and that the country is functioning well. We normally don't like to comment on political situations, and personally I have no Mali interest in what their government is. What I can say from a company point of view, we've always found that the people we deal with in the government have been good to deal with. We've achieved a lot with the previous government led by President Keita. We've actually managed to achieve our mining license being granted through this current transitional government. We're prepared to work with the people in power, and the political instability has not affected KODAL's ability to operate. We don't see any issue in terms of security of the project, and we don't see any issue in us being able to develop the mine. And on the contrary, in fact, as Steve mentioned, that the local community is very keen for us to develop. The local governor of the Burgundy district is very supportive, and right through to the Ministry of Mines in Bamako, they're all very keen to see us develop an operation. So we see, obviously, like everyone, that the government has undergone a change. However, from our point of view, it has had no impact on the project, and nor on KODAL's ability to work.
Bernard, that's great. Thank you very much indeed for that. The next question that we have here reads as follows. Please, can you comment on the rumours regarding a possible takeover by the Chinese? Thank you.
Rumours really, I don't really ever discuss rumours, Jake, but what I can say, and what we've said in the presentation today, and shareholders will know that we made an announcement a few weeks ago that basically deals with the restructuring of Rishin, the introduction to Rishin of another substantial shareholder there, a group called Kanglong Da, who are looking themselves to become a lithium refiner and become involved in the lithium industry. We obviously, and as I've said before, we've had dealings with Rishin since 2016. They invested in 2017. They've been our major shareholder since that time. They've been very supportive of our program. They've assisted us with metallurgical test work, with the sampling of our bulk sample, with some guidance towards metallurgical treatment of our product. So we think that the Rishin has been good for us. I suspect that in some cases there's been a lot of perhaps mistranslation or misunderstanding of what has been said, or what we understand the interest of Kanglong Da is. And we have stated for a long time that we actually have an agreement with Rishin to work towards an offtake agreement. And my understanding is that all our agreements still remain in place, that we're continuing to have discussions with Rishin about the development and the support of our project. And I have never heard or never had any indication from Rishin that they're looking at any form of takeover. To the contrary, in fact, that they're very keen to work with us and support us. So in terms of commenting on rumours in general, no, I have no comment to make other than those are my discussions, and we don't know of any idea of a takeover.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Bernard. And we have two questions here that are similar in theme, both around funding. The first one reads as follows. What is the timescale for securing full funding, and what route are KODAL taking for that funding? Are KODAL going at it alone via a loan agreement, or will it be a joint venture deal? Also, if it is a joint venture, who are the front runners in terms of partners? Would it be just financiers, or would it be a major mineral miner? And then the second question that we have here, which is more specific around the 18-month period, is are all plans for operations for the next 18 months funded?
There are a couple of quite detailed questions there, Jake. In terms of our proposal to go forward with the development of Burgundy, as I've said, we've been in discussions with various parties for quite a while. We have multiple opportunities, which is kind of great for us, but again, it kind of creates some extra work in assessing what's the best result for us, what's the best result for shareholders, and actually what is most likely to proceed. And some of those questions may not always be simple to verify. We are looking at opportunities for funding that may involve a debt and equity component. We are looking at funding that may involve partnership. And, you know, as I've said before, I quite like the deal that Leo Lithium have in place with Ganfeng for a partnership that involves the building of their plant. But it may not work for us, and so we're still undertaking those discussions. My preference, probably, if I had to say I had a preference, is really to say that we prefer to deal with end users of our product, to deal with people who are actually involved in the industry rather than pure financiers or middle offtake traders, because I believe that the long-term benefit for KODAL will be to be completely involved with people in the industry. The next question about are we fully funded for the next 18 months? Well, right now, we're funded if we undertake the work that we are currently doing, which is the engineering work that Steve will no doubt have a few questions about as we go along today. We're funded to undertake the additional metallurgical testing that we've highlighted. We're funded to undertake drilling that we've highlighted. But if you're asking me, are we funded to undertake the initially proposed $150 million capital development? Well, no, and that's all linked in with our discussions around financing. So what I can say is the company is in a very secure financial position. The company is very well supported for our development, and that we expect that we'll be able to achieve a very good deal towards the final production and development of the Burgundy project.
Bernard, thank you very much for that. The next pre-submitted question that we have here reads as follows: have you signed any contracts to fix the price at which you sell the lithium?
No. And I think, sorry, Jake, to be so blunt. No, we haven't. And just as an additional response, I forgot to add into that previous question asking about which companies we're dealing with. Well, right now we're not in a position to name any companies that we're talking with on the grounds that we're dealing with some confidential situations. Companies that we're talking to have asked us to maintain confidentiality, and we've asked them to maintain confidentiality. And the same goes with any sort of signing of any offtake or any agreement that is of significant note to the company. Of course, we'd notify shareholders, and shareholders would be aware once we have got to a point where we've got something to announce. And from our point of view, that would be when we're confident that we have a binding agreement that both parties are happy with, that we're secured on the funding and that we're secured on the support. That's when we'll be making an announcement.
That's great. And perhaps one final pre-submitted question that we have here reads as follows. Hi, Bernard. In November 2021 interview, I think you stated that the timeline would be 6 months for mine planning and then 18 months for mine construction. I think the 6 months was up in May. Can you tell us the revised timeline, please? Thank you.
Jake, I think Steve can probably give a better summary here on our proposed development timeline.
Can do, Bernard. But our main goal for us is to secure our funding. Once we've secured funding, it's still 18 months for mine construction. So in the first half of this year, as Bernard knows, we've been doing a lot of what I call front-end engineering work to ensure that when we do get funding, we can hit the ground running. I've seen another question on deck that talks about Goulamina, two things in particular. And those who may not know, Goulamina is about 50 kilometres away from Burgundy, owned by Lithium, and they've got a much bigger project than we have. Their throughput target is over 2.4 million tonnes for the first year. We have water very close to us. We have the town of Burgundy nearby and access to power and also services from the Burgundy town, which Goulamina doesn't. They also have a longer road to get into site and I think a long pipeline. So not only a bigger project and therefore a lot higher capital cost, a lot longer to complete the construction work at Goulamina than our more modest plant. There's also a question about piloting. The flotation process we're using at Burgundy is tried and tested in Western Australia. I've worked on a couple of projects there. We're actually engaging with the engineers, the same engineers that have been successful in Western Australia with improving flotation recoveries. You'll see in our recent announcement that we have the confidence that our flotation recoveries will be in the mid 70% range, where the original feasibility study was completed on 71%. So there's still improvement there. So we talk about making sure that we've got some conservatism in our numbers to be confident that our project and the life of mine is sustainable.
Thank you very much for that, Steve. And perhaps one final question here. I know you touched on this briefly throughout the presentation, but it reads as follows. Will you please tell us when the Burgundy lithium production will begin? And what is the expected annual production of lithium?
So annually, our target is 230,000 tonnes per annum of lithium over 8 or 9 years. And as I stated just now, once we have funding in place, within 18 months, we'll be in production. On top of the engineering studies we've been doing, we continue to engage with the communities. As I said before, we've got great support from the communities themselves. They were very proactive in meetings in order for us to obtain our environmental permit. And the mining license, as we've stated a few times, is already secured. So we're in a great position to be the next producer in Mali. And once we get funding, we're quietly confident we can get up there before our friends at Goulamina do. We won't give up on that.
That's great. And Steve, Bernard, as you can see, as I mentioned before, we have received a number of questions that have come in throughout today's presentation. And may I thank all the investors for their engagement this morning as well. If I could please just hand back to you to run through that Q&A tab, and where appropriate to do so, if you could please just read out the questions and give your response, and then I'll pick up from you at the end. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Jake. Well, I guess I can see here, again, not really a question, but just a request to say hello. And hello, Claire and your Telegram group. Thanks very much for your support and ongoing interest. And I hope you found today an interesting update. And we look forward to giving you a lot more information in the future. Next question is from Darren, who's asking when we'll have a PFS or DFS be commissioned. And Darren, I think I can answer this quite quickly, and that is to say that right now we're in the process of updating our engineering study. You've seen the release of the updated feasibility study. Part and parcel of that is a whole range of work on the engineering that's ongoing. So we're not actually looking to say we have a separate commissioning of a DFS. Our work program is ongoing. And Steve, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, suffice to say that we do have an offtake agreement in place. We're in continued discussions with that offtaker, Rishin. Bernard has mentioned other opportunities that have come to KODAL because of the very buoyant market and the demand for lithium products. And the work we did for the original feasibility study was sufficient for us to obtain our mining license. And we believe with the additional work we've done, which in the next month or so, where it's raining quite heavily still in Mali and in Burgundy itself, we'll have those studies complete so that the timing is great if we can get our funding in place and the dry season starting in October. all things going according to my plans, we'll be breaking dirt later this year, Bernard, and moving forward with development.
Well, we do have a big target on our back, Steve, so let's see how we go.
That's what I'm here for, boss.
Yes, you've answered that next question about the offtake, and some things around that offtake need to be finalised, of course, but as we said, our major shareholder has been a very strong supporter over a long period of time. Again, Darren is asking questions about where will capital funding come from. Well, Darren, what we can say is the strong interest in our project from groups within the industry is a key indication to us that the opportunity for funding our project is very strong. We're continuing to finalise those discussions. Yes, it's on the basis of our current feasibility study and on extensive due diligence carried out by groups who we're continuing to work with. Nigel is asking a question in relation to the UK government, the UK government's approach towards critical battery metal policy. I think that KODAL is in a very fortunate position, Nigel, in that our project at the moment is generating a lot of support from outside of government interests. Mali is very keen to see us develop. The Mali government will take up their 10% free carried and has indicated that they are looking to take up their additional 10%. They're looking to support us through to development. Additional support for KODAL is coming via other industry players, and we believe that we can get our project up and running outside of additional government support. So I'm not really aware of what the full details of this new critical battery metal policy, but I will highlight that yes, KODAL is a UK listed company, an AIM listed company. However, our project is in Mali, and so there'll obviously be implications from the Mali government. And our major shareholder currently is a Singapore-based company, Chinese-backed, and we're quite diverse. So I'm not sure specifically whether the UK policy will assist us, but we certainly don't think government will impede us in any way. Again, another couple of questions here from Darren A, and I might just quickly answer both of those together. One is details of a Sino-Hydro study, and the second, actually I'll leave the second, which is the Capex, to Steve. And I'll just say, Darren, Sino-Hydro, we had an agreement with Sino-Hydro, an MOU, where they were reviewing our project, looking to take a position where they were looking to be the sole provider of finance to us. They reached the point where their first 6 months was over. They requested an extension. We refused that extension. The MOU is ongoing. We have had some discussions with Sino-Hydro recently, but I have said previously, and I say again, they're probably not our preferred partner to continue with. And Steve, the next question there from Darren was actually in regards to a Capex comparison. If you could probably have a comment on that.
I did touch on that before, and Darren knows he was listening. He must have been off. I just want people to understand that Burgundy is a little bit more modest-sized project than Goulamina. We're a bit closer to town, a bit closer to Bamako. There's power in our area. They don't have power where they are in Goulamina. They don't have access to water like we do, and access to accommodation for our operating labour as well. So there's a few advantages that Burgundy has over Goulamina, and that explains the capital cost. Goulamina are also looking to expand their project after the first couple of years. So their whole design is a larger scale, built around expanding from 2.5 to sort of just over 4 million tonnes. Their deposit's a lot larger, but ours is a lot easier to process, in my opinion.
Yeah, and look, I just add one comment to that, Steve and Darren, in answer to your question. It's clear, I think, that we both like the Goulamina project. It's a large project. It's a good quality project. It is different from ours, but we're both looking to bring lithium projects in Mali to the market, and we're both working to open a new lithium sector. Both our projects are pegmatite-hosted, spodumene-rich ore. Both our projects will be exporting a spodumene concentrate. They're quite similar in that aspect, but as Steve points out, you're looking at Goulamina, which is looking to develop a much larger project, and hence its capex is higher. As it produces more units of spodumene, its operating cost per unit is probably going to look lower than ours, but it's a swings and roundabouts argument. And we think, and we're demonstrating to shareholders and potential investors, that our project, while it may be smaller, is a very good project. It's very robust under low price regime, low capex regime, and delivers a fantastic return. And I wish Goulamina all the best. I think we've got a great opportunity to be ahead of them over the next year. And, you know, yes, we're in a bit of competition, but we're actually not competing against each other. And we would look to be working with other mining companies in the area for support in terms of transport, in terms of purchasing power, in terms of logistic support. So we're comparing two different projects, but we're comparing projects that we think will be of great benefit to Mali, and as I said, open a new industry for Mali. So thanks for your questions, Darren, and I hope we've answered those. Next question is from Balaz F. Good morning. Are you experienced planning delay of any actual production? So this question is, are we experience any planning, any delay of the start of actual production due to the current global financial crisis? Balaz, I don't think that we are experiencing any current delay. More our issue is ensuring that we get the best value for KODAL shareholders. So at the moment, I would say no significant delay. Planning and work is ongoing. And the financial, as we said at the start of this presentation, yes, there's some headwinds in the macroeconomic environment, but for us in the lithium space, in the green energy space, and in the space that may link into an improved environment for the greater population, we think that we're still in a very good position. John H, I guess, again, asking again as a comparison to Leo Lithium and Goulamina and us. Yes, we are aiming to be the first producer in Mali, John, and Steve outlined several times throughout his answers, and I support Steve's comments that we are looking to develop on a slightly smaller scale than Leo Lithium. That gives us an opportunity to be quicker. That gives us an opportunity to be in production sooner. It also gives us an opportunity to secure financing more readily for our project. So while Leo Lithium are ahead in some aspects of their project, they've still got a long way to go, and we feel we can. We still feel we can be the first. I'll move on. Harry, realistic share price by the end of the year. Can I just say, Harry, I'm not really great at predicting share prices. What I can say is the fundamentals of our project are extremely strong, that we anticipate being able to finalize some of our discussions in the short term, and that I believe, I hope, will be seen by shareholders as extremely positive, and that our share price will continue to rise from where it is today. Richard, I think we've answered this question a bit, where Richard S is asking, when do we expect to announce to the market finalised finances agreements? Richard, I'd love to say an exact timeline, but I can't. What I can tell you is that we're in quite detailed discussions with several groups, and that those discussions are very positive, and we're looking to provide updates to our shareholders as soon as possible. Again, another question from Abbas K, who is asking that our chairman recently stated that a deal is tantalisingly close. What's my definition of tantalising? In some ways, Abbas, perhaps my definition of tantalising is a lolly that's just out of reach. But in other ways, in this situation, my answer is that it's tantalising for us when we see the opportunities that are possible for KODAL. The main game for us is to try and get the best result for our shareholders. And we feel that we're having very fruitful discussions. We feel that we're dealing with very viable parties who we believe will be good long-term partners, and clearly that's the main game for KODAL. Ewan L, Steve, perhaps you might like to have a look at this one.
Yes, Bernard. The DMS only operation, Ewan's asking whether that is still a consideration. We have announced in the past a large bulk sample that we sent to our offtake partners at Rishin, which recovered really well as DMS. And that is still something as part of our front-end engineering work that we are considering. And there's a little bit more work to do there, but it does provide an opportunity potentially for KODAL to get up and running with a small DMS plant, which is a much lower capex and a smaller build that can still be a profitable operation. And does not mean that we don't continue with our flotation plant. And the upside that I see there is the potential with the other prospects that we have around the Burgundy project to find more DMS style ore. But just to be clear, at Ngualana, the DMS recoveries are really high. At Sogolabale and Bumu, which is the majority of our current resource, the flotation recoveries are higher. So we have two styles of deposit there, which is not uncommon in these sorts of projects. So yes, to answer your question, DMS is potentially still something to look at, but it will depend also on our funding solution and potential funding partners that come along and what kind of product that they are looking for, and that can vary. But safe to say it's still an opportunity for us.
Thanks, Steve. Let's move on. So Tim J is asking in terms of some details regarding our current agreement with Rishin, and they relate to what quantity are we obliged to sell to Rishin, and how do we maximize the value of this sale? So Tim, interesting question, and that is that the agreement with Rishin specifies that we do have the right to market 20% of our product to various parties. If other parties we deal with want to take more, and we tell Rishin that we have opportunities to sell more at a higher price, there's a matching requirement for Rishin if they'd like to maintain their level of the product. So at the moment, Rishin have a right to between 80 and 100%, with the 20% for us free to market. But clearly to say, as obviously we're clear that we are talking with various parties, of course we're continuing discussions with Rishin. Rishin obviously are very keen to support us. Other parties are very keen to support us. We think we're working towards a good result for our shareholders here. So yes, we have an offtake agreement to finalise with Reshin, but we're also looking to add to that. Ewan again asking another question regarding Mali Lithium royalty rate. Leo says it's 6% and KODAL say it's 3%. We say 3% because the Mali mining code has written it that it's 3%. We again, I don't really want to comment on what Goulamina are putting into their feasibility studies. We're pretty clear that the Mali government royalty is 3%. We have a 0.6% royalty payable to some of the original vendors of the license. Again, our shareholders will be aware that earlier this year we took the opportunity to purchase the remaining 10% of those projects, which I consider we were able to buy for a very good price. And part of that transaction was a 0.6% royalty to them. Steve, you're familiar with the mining code and the input into the engineering.
Yes.
That 3% is correct as far as we know?
Yeah, it's been checked and also by our local accounting and legal team in Mali. I have read the DFS top to bottom from Leo Lithium, and they do say it's 6%, and they don't give any clarity around why it is 6%. I'd be guessing, but there's probably some local partners that originally owned that project. It's quite common in Africa, but you might want to ask them for that detail. I've never seen it in any of their announcements, actually.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Zan, pretty simple question, asking about our KODAL hats. Actually, Zan, we haven't really made any for sale. We might in the future have a few that may be available at our AGM, but I'm not promising anything. But we're not really. We provide them for our workers and our people on site out there working for the company. Steve. Yasso is asking when we think we will be profitable. I'd say this relates to our feasibility study.
It does, Bernard, and I did state that our lithium project, like a lot of these, the payback period is really quick. So the payback is less than a year. Once we're in production, if the lithium price stays where it is, and as Bernard said, there's every indication that it will do, we'll be profitable reasonably quickly, and a lot quicker than my experience in gold projects in West Africa, which actually dates back to 97. Bernard, you were close.
You look young.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think I think just to be very clear, like the lithium market is great at the moment, and projects like this will have a very short payback time if we can move quickly and get into the market as quickly as possible, and that's our aim. So yes, profitable. We hope to be profitable as quickly as possible. So 18 months to develop, 8 months after that for payback, probably, well, let's say 10 months. So within a couple of years' time from production, we should be in profitable. So the next question was from Chris L there, again asking about what would we do to distance our lithium project from our gold project and possibly as a separate company. Chris, you're raising a point that we did discuss last year and over a couple of year period, where we are very clear that the focus for KODAL is our Burgundy lithium project. Right now, that's been the focus of a lot of our executive time in dealing with interested parties, with Steve in particular working to finalise the engineering, working with several consultants as we're speaking now in regards to metallurgy, open pit mine design, and so on. The gold projects do seem to get a little lost in our company, unfortunately. And as I've said before, we are looking to crystallize some value for those projects. Right now, we haven't got a clear plan, but we are looking at some opportunities for those. So yes, in the future, I suspect that there may be much greater clarification of the distinction between our lithium and gold. Abbas K is asking another question in regards to, are we getting any interest from Western miners, Pilbara, Galaxy, that are making mega profits? Abbas, I would suggest that some of those companies, such as Pilbara, for example, are actually looking to potentially move further down the processing chain in terms of their own project rather than investing in other projects. Galaxy have invested in several other projects. They're Australian-based ASX-listed companies. And no, I haven't spoken to them. We haven't spoken to them as a company. Your question says mainly interest from China. Well, actually, we've received interest from Europe, North America, and China. We think the company's project is clearly one of few that are actually development ready, got a good quality resource, fully permitted for production, and in a pro-mining jurisdiction makes us quite an attractive proposition. So not just China, but no to the specific companies you mentioned, but quite a lot of interest. Yes, again asking about, and I guess, yes, your question here about really, so Yas is asking how are we looking at the situation in Mali at the moment with the French pulling out of their role in the forces and Russia potentially coming in as advisors and increasing China interest. Yes, as I said, when we're talking about the Mali political situation, we continue to work with the Mali Mining Ministry, the DNGM, and the Minister. We have no real interest in the politics of the country aside from us being good citizens, working with the government of the day and maintaining our rights. So I'm not really think I can answer anything more to that question. Frank J is asking about recruiting staff for Burgundy. So Steve, perhaps you might like to take that one.
Okay, Bernard. We don't see any major problems recruiting staff in Mali. There's a few advantages of Burgundy. It's a 2-hour drive to the capital, so those staff that drive in and out are very attracted to the location of our project. So that'll give us those opportunities coming forward. Well-trained staff. It's a conventional flotation plant that is the base case for the feasibility study. Mali, they've been mining modern gold plants for a long time, over 25 years, and the front end of those plants are the same as what we'll be installing. The flotation itself will need to bring in some expertise from overseas, but that is easy to find for flotation projects like this. So I don't foresee any major problems.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And Jake, I think we'll probably like to maybe just take one more question and then hand back to you. We're probably out of our time now, but I'll just look at one final question here in relation to infrastructure that's in place and what will be required going forward. And I'll start with a couple of comments and then Steve can add some here. Our Burgundy project is located just 180 kilometres south of the capital, Bamako. We're serviced by a well-maintained bitumen highway. The town of Burgundy has a population exceeding 50,000 people, so we have good local roads, we have good infrastructure, we have a town with a workforce available for some of the jobs that can be undertaken by people, and we will be providing training. we have readily available water. We do expect that in our development, we'll be actually adding a lot of infrastructure. And Steve, if you want to just add a couple of comments there.
Yeah, the infrastructure that we need, as I said before, the advantage for us is the river provides us with water for our operations without having to do a lot of storage. The area that we're mining is quite flat. A lot of areas have already been cleared. Access to the highway is great. It's only a short access road to where our pits and our plant are. Power, there is grid power within the Burgundy town, but it's driven by diesel. We've been talking to local solar energy providers and looking to advance that further as we move forward through this front-end engineering, as I call it. And the major grid itself, there is a plan to provide power to the Burgundy settlement in the near future. We don't have any visibility on what near future means, but it is one of the projects on plan for the government to fund. So it's actually quite simple from an infrastructure perspective to get this up and running, Bernard.
Thanks. Okay, so I think we've dealt with enough questions for today, and obviously a broad range of topics there. And I think we can clearly see, and we've known that what investors are interested in is how quickly can we finance and get into production. And we hope to be able to give you some real facts in the near future. So Jake, if you'd like to add anything now.
Bernard, Steve, that's great. And thank you very much indeed for taking the time to update investors today. I was just going to ask you for a few closing comments, Bernard, but I think you've just well delivered that. So in which instance, I'm going to now redirect those on the call to provide you with their feedback. So could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of KODAL Minerals PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session, so good morning to you all.